What if I told you that a group of people in West Africa knew about Saturn's rings and Jupiter's moons centuries before Galileo pointed his telescope at the sky? What if I told you they had detailed knowledge of Sirius B, a star so faint you literally cannot see it with the naked eye, and they knew it orbited Sirius every 50 years? This is the story of the Dogon people of Mali, and their astronomical knowledge is one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something that has puzzled scientists, historians, and astronomers for nearly a century. How did the Dogon people of Mali possess advanced astronomical knowledge that Europeans wouldn't discover until centuries later? The Dogon are an ethnic group living in the Central Plateau region of Mali, primarily along the Bandiagara escarpment. They've lived there for at least 600 years, possibly much longer, maintaining rich oral traditions passed down through generations. But here's what makes them extraordinary. Their priests, called the Dogon, hold astronomical knowledge that shouldn't be possible without modern telescopes. They knew about celestial objects and cosmic phenomena that Western science only discovered in the 1800s and 1900s. Let's break down exactly what they knew and why it's so mind-blowing. The most famous example is their knowledge of Sirius. In the night sky, Sirius appears as a single bright star, the brightest star we can see from Earth. But the Dogon knew something incredible. Sirius has a companion star. They call it Potolo, the smallest seed star. This companion, which we now call Sirius B, is a white dwarf star so dim that it wasn't discovered by Western astronomers until 1862. And it wasn't photographed until 1970. But here's the kicker. The Dogon not only knew about Sirius B, they knew it orbits Sirius every 50 years actual. 49.9 years. They were basically spot on. It's incredibly heavy. Despite being small, white dwarfs are extraordinarily dense. It moves in an elliptical orbit around Sirius. They drew diagrams in the sand showing this orbital pattern. These diagrams were documented by French anthropologists Marcel Grial and Germain Dieterlen in the 1930s-1940s. When they lived with the Dogon and learned their sacred knowledge, the Dogon also described Saturn as having a halo or rings around it. Saturn's rings weren't observed by European astronomers until Galileo saw them in 1610, and even he did understand what he was seeing at first. It wasn't until later observations that astronomers confirmed they were rings. Similarly, the Dogon knew that Jupiter had moons orbiting it, what we now call the Galilean moons, discovered by Galileo in 1610. They described the Milky Way as a spiral with stars and celestial objects throughout. They understood it as a massive structure in space, knowledge that predates modern galactic astronomy by centuries. Their calendar system incorporated sophisticated understanding of lunar cycles, planetary movements, and seasonal changes based on astronomical observations. So here's the question that has haunted researchers for decades. How did they know? There are essentially three theories. Some argue the Dogon or their ancestors had access to optical instruments we don't know about, or possessed observation techniques so refined they could detect things invisible to the naked eye. The problem? No evidence of ancient telescopes exists, and Sirius B is literally impossible to see without modern equipment. It's 10,000 times dimmer than Sirius and sits right next to it in the sky. This is where things get wild. Some researchers, including the author Robert Temple in his controversial book The Sirius Mystery, suggest the Dogon received this knowledge from an advanced civilization, possibly extraterrestrial visitors who came from the Sirius system. The Dogon have oral traditions about Nommo, amphibious beings who came from the sky and gave them knowledge. Temple interpreted this as evidence of ancient alien contact. The skeptical explanation: the Dogon learned about Sirius B, Saturn's rings, and Jupiter's moons from European visitors, missionaries, or travelers in the early 1900s. Before the French anthropologists documented their knowledge, critics point out that Marceau Grial first visited the Dogon in the 1930s, decades after these astronomical discoveries were public knowledge in Europe. Maybe the information spread through colonial contact. Here's where it gets complicated. The debate is fierce, and honestly, we don't have a definitive answer. Arguments for ancient knowledge. The knowledge was embedded in sacred rituals and ceremonies that appeared to be very old. Specific details like the 50-year orbital period are remarkably accurate. The knowledge was held by priests who claimed it was passed down for generations. Some symbols and drawings seem to predate European contact. Arguments for modern contamination. There's no documented proof of Dogon astronomy before the 1930s. Mali was under French colonial rule. Information could have spread. Popular astronomy books and magazines existed by the 1920s. Some researchers noting consistencies in how the knowledge was reported. The middle ground. It's possible that Dogon had sophisticated astronomical traditions of their own, tracking visible stars, understanding celestial cycles, and this knowledge was later supplemented or influenced by contact with European scientific ideas, creating a blend of indigenous wisdom and modern astronomy. Regardless of how they acquired it, the Dogon's astronomical knowledge represents something important. It challenges Western assumptions about who gets to be knowledgeable about the cosmos. For too long, the narrative has been that science and astronomy are exclusively Western achievements. But sophisticated astronomical observation exists in cultures worldwide, from the Dogon to ancient Egypt, from Polynesian navigators to indigenous American astronomers. Whether the Dogon independently discovered Sirius B through unknown methods, received it from an ancient source, or incorporated European knowledge into their traditions, their story reminds us that curiosity about the stars is universal. And maybe, just maybe, there are ways of knowing the universe that we've forgotten or never understood in the first place. The Dogon astronomy mystery remains unsolved. We have theories. We have evidence pointing in different directions, but we don't have certainty. What do you think? Ancient knowledge, modern contamination, something else entirely? Drop your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of astronomy's greatest mysteries, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations of unexplained history and forgotten knowledge. Thanks for watching, and remember, the universe is full of mysteries. And sometimes the biggest mystery is how our ancestors understood it.